I'm here at the Mobile World Live studio with Mysore Madhusudhan, EVP of Tata Communications. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Wonderful to be here in Barcelona, MWC 23.
Excellent. How is Tata Communications responding to new trends and evolving customer requirements, especially when it comes to customer experience?
Just to give a little bit of, before I answer that question, coming straight to the question, Tata Communications is a digital ecosystem enabler, which basically it enables quite a lot of starting from an infrastructure into an application which any enterprises would take in, and predominantly a B2B player. There are two aspects which needs to be looked at it. One, being present in 180 plus countries, whatever experience which I am able to give across, starting from an infrastructure up to that application and how the application itself gets adopted, how does, from a experience perspective, how is it going through the vertical of the various layers of experiences. Then it needs to be consistent across the geographical spread which those enterprises would have. If I have to split this broadly, if I have to take it, how does customer experience itself would be looked at? One, starting from an attract, which is basically whenever a customer comes into you, then how does that customer gets onboarded, or how do you transact those onboarding happening? Then how do you service those various services which they have taken? Then finally, how do you retain it? So when you look at the various 4 different stages in which the customer experience itself counts, it becomes very important that there has to be a data insight or a AI model which cuts across where that communication is happening, how that communication is happening, and how is the communication going back and forth two-way in this actually. Again, when you look at it, all of us have got multiple channels of communication, which is your messaging, which is your voice, your video, and again, all of these are across various platforms on which the whole communication happens. So when you look at it, this seamlessness across the channels, seamlessness across the platforms, and bringing in a contextuality to it, and it needs to be more conversational. Because if you see that many people do not want to be associated with any apps nowadays actually. They want to be having the real-time communication happening. So this is where Tata Communications DIGO, the platform, which is cutting across both horizontal as well as verticals of this customer experience itself is being handled.
And so moving on to 5G now, how do you think enterprise will harness the power of 5G through private network?
Before even I get to 5G itself, if you just go back in a history of it, all of the networks which has evolved up till now, that is 2G, 3G, 4G, it has been more based on what the technology can give it to the consumer as such. But in 5G's case, these are all driven by what are all the possibilities which these technologies could be giving in. Coming back, the example being, for a visual computing, the kind of network or the speed which is required is based on the kind of speed at which the whole network is performing. Same thing if I have to take it in a media and entertainment business, there the low latency becomes one of the key requirement, which is where the types of 5G is becoming one of the key drivers, both in terms of the adoption and also while based on the various proof of concepts what we have done, which is industrialization or the digitization in that industries across industrial IoT or industry 4.0, or whether it is in a mobility segment. When I say mobility segment, it needs to cover from the moment an automobile has been conceptualized in a research lab and to the moment it comes into the road. We call it as a research to road. Basically what that means is from the moment it is in a factory, how does the communication happens digitally between the person who is designing and architecting to the manufacturing what is happening and various communication that is happening, and the moment it gets onto the road, how does this private kind of digital 5G is getting transitioned into the public network itself. So when you look at this whole adoption itself in terms of the 5G, while spectrum is one area where it is getting worked on, I think the other area is primarily driven by industries where the use cases are becoming a key element in this whole 5G adoption itself as such.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your insights today.